Three, two, one, go. Welcome, everybody, to Geekvice episode 260, proving any vice with enough geek can become a virtue. My name's Morph. Yes, I'm back. That man's Kip. Good evening, Kip.
Good evening.
We are back. Well, let me rephrase that. I am back. He has been here the entire time. That guy over there has been here. Thank you to his wife, Holly, for stepping in and covering for me. And if you haven't listened to those two episodes, you should go check them out on our podcast page because they are awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah. So be sure, I'm guessing Holly is already in bed, but be sure to let her know that I said thanks and that she is awesome.
I will. She's actually awake, believe it or not, but she's upstairs watching TV, so the sound won't bleed.
Fair. That is probably true. I remember some of those early episodes when we get the wrestling in the background. That was No, you suck it.
Yeah, it just adds flavor.
Yeah, it's all good. Well, hopefully we don't get too many of the fireworks going off in my microphone because they're already shooting off fireworks in my neighborhood, even though they're not supposed to be.
You know, I've hardly heard any fireworks so far. You know, it's July 2nd.
Yeah.
We've had, over the weekend, we had a display at the golf course a couple of miles, probably 4 or 5 miles from here.
Yeah.
And then every now and then we'll hear a really loud boom. That's it.
Yeah, the fireworks stands have started selling stuff as early as this last weekend, and they technically we're not allowed to shoot them off until July 3rd, 4th, and 5th. We can shoot them off, and but you know, people can't wait that long. If you can buy them, they shoot them. So there's a few
Yeah.
things going off here and there. Hopefully they don't
Yeah.
echo too loud.
We went to Abilene, Kansas yesterday we went to the Eisenhower Museum and all that. We just did a little day trip.
Oh, nice.
And the fireworks stands just on the main drag in Abilene was kind of obscene.
Yeah.
There was a lot of them.
Yeah. And apparently that's the thing. Like, you can make a real killing off those. And yeah, I don't know. I don't want to deal with
Was
it.
it pun intended or?
No. Nope.
Nope.
But
Okay.
yeah. Yeah, so yeah, that's coming. We're gonna shoot stuff off, but it won't be till the 4th because tomorrow night we're going to, which will be July 3rd. Tomorrow night we will be going to the Sporting Kansas City game, because their first home game in a month is tomorrow, and we're going there, and they're gonna have a fireworks display after the game, so we're gonna stick around and watch that and
Very cool.
have a good time. So.
Tell you what, thanks to the Women's World Cup, I've actually been watching soccer.
Oh, yeah.
I even watched a little bit of today's match.
Oh, there you go. Today's one was a good one, too. It was, yeah. It
got a little chippy there, but it was good.
Oh, it sure did. Yeah, USA playing England, and USA won 2-1 in the World Cup semifinals. They are on to the finals, which are now on Sunday. They will play the winner of the match tomorrow between Sweden and the Netherlands, I believe. I think that's the two teams. But yeah, it's the Women's World Cup. I've been really impressed with it. We watched quite a bit of it, even when we were on vacation. We went to a lot of the restaurants and breweries and stuff that we went to had the games on, and so we would watch them while we were eating or whatever, and they've been really good games. They've been really good matches. Very we'll get a soccer kick for a little bit here, but they've been really, really open and lots of good play, fast
Yeah.
paced and attacking style soccer from a lot of the teams. So,
We did a kind of a, I guess, a bracket for it at work
oh yeah,
where you did a blind draw.
oh
You drew three teams,
yeah,
and my best team was Germany,
ooh they did
and
pretty
then they
good.
got upset by Sweden yesterday, so it was pretty
Yeah, in
upsetting for me.
the last round, that was a tough one. That was a tough one too because Germany was they were pretty good. They,
They were good, and they had tons of scoring opportunities. The ball just wasn't. It wasn't their day. You
yeah,
could just see it.
yeah.
Yeah, the headers and everything that would just go over the net and things like that. It's like, yep, my
It's,
only team left in the tourney is gone.
yeah, sometimes you can't buy a break, and
Yeah,
it's- it, just like in any sport, there's always a little bit of luck. So,
this is true. This is true. But now I can just say, go US.
that's right.
USA, USA.
Yeah, USA is in the finals again. I believe. I'm doing this off the cuff. I believe they have made it to every World Cup final for the women. I know in the Olympics they got knocked out fairly early. They've missed some finals and some other tournament type stuff, but I believe the World Cup they have been to the finals in every single one of them. Now
Wow.
there hasn't been that many since they started in early 2000s, I believe, was the first Women's World Cup. So, um, but yeah, it's really awesome. U.S. was not one of the well, they were one of the favorites, but they were not the favorite. France was actually the favorite for this tournament. Even though the U.S. has been really good in the past, they didn't think we were going to be as good this year. And beating France and now beating England, I think we have proven everybody that the U.S. is here and we're not going anywhere anytime soon. So it's kind of nice to see the United States dominate in soccer like that. So, oh,
Absolutely.
alrighty. So let's talk. I want to talk a little bit about my traveling because I had a lot of fun. It was a blast. I hated missing the episodes that I did, um, but this was a much needed vacation. We were gone for 10 days. I left on a Wednesday and didn't get back till the next Friday night, and flew from Kansas City to Portland, then drove from Portland to Newport, Oregon, and stayed in Newport, Oregon. It's all right, dogs. It's just fireworks. That was jumping. Um, the drove to Newport, Oregon, which is actually on the coast of Oregon, kind of southwest of Portland. And then from there, we drove back to Portland for a couple of days, and then went from Portland up to Seattle and stayed west of the Puget Sounds from Seattle. Um, we stayed on an island, which was really cool. It is an island with one bridge to get onto the island. It is called Harstein Island, and there's no businesses on this island. There's one state park and some houses, and that's it. It's
So was
really
it an Airbnb kind of a
It
situation, or?
was. It was. I love Airbnb. I recommend it for anyone who wants to travel. Check out the Airbnbs because um, there are really good deals and some really nice houses. I'm sure there's some really shoddy ones too, but the houses that we've stayed in are freaking amazing. And the one that we stayed in on this island, on Hartstein Island, near Seattle, it was a person's it was a retired couple's guest house. He is a retired architect. She is a retired middle school superintendent, or a school district superintendent. And so he designed this guest house, had it built, and then lived in the guest house while they had their other house built. And they're not far apart, but there's so much like woods and everything between them. You can't really like. We never saw them. You felt like you were like camping in the woods, and like you wake up in the morning in these big picture windows, and all you see is like the sunrise in between these trees.
Oh
Like,
wow.
I mean, just absolutely gorgeous. Um, really, just oh, great experience, a lot of fun. But we did the math, and if we would have drove from our house in Kansas City to Newport, Oregon, we would have drove 1,800 miles, rounded, 1,800 miles. Flying to Portland and then picking up the rental car there and driving everywhere that we drove around 1,500 miles. So we put a lot of miles on everything that we did, but we did a lot of stuff. We went whale watching in Newport. We went to a national park in Newport that has a lighthouse and a big tide pool area, which if you don't know what tide pools are, it's where during high tide it's completely covered, but during low tide it leaves all these little pockets of water around in like rocks and things like that that you can find all kinds of sea creatures in. So it kind of like leaves little contained fishing like fish bowls for you to go look and see all the stuff that's in it. And since it was run by a national park, they had they had a couple of conservationists down there that had a 8.5 by 11 laminated card with pictures of all the stuff and the names of what they were. And so my kids were like, they wanted to go down there, but they were kind of like, it's gonna be boring. I'm like, let's just go see what we can find. Well, they hand them this card, and they're like, here's all the stuff you can find. See how many of them you can find. Well, then it became not just a well, go see what you can do. It was now, hey, now it's a scavenger hunt. Like, let's go see
Now
what we
it's
can find.
on.
So they were all. We spent 2 hours just like looking in all these little different areas, seeing what we could find, and um, it was it was really cool. A lot of fun there. Then when we went up to Portland, we walked around Washington Park, which is a big wooded park in the middle of Portland, Oregon. And it's got a Japanese rose garden, and it's got a forestry center that tells you all about like how to tell how old a tree is and how you can look at the rings of a tree and see what be able to tell what's happened over all those years, and um, the different ecosystems that are within the forests, and so that was really cool. Downside there was apparently I did not realize, but from we walked from our hotel to the park, and then we hiked all the way through the park and these different trails that they had. Little did I know that entire walk was going to be uphill. Probably should have checked that first. The 7-year-old was quite pissed when we got to the top, and he's like, guys, when do we get to go downhill? I'm like, well, I think the whole way back is downhill. He's like, oh, thank gosh. Yeah, poor kid,
He's
but
7. He can handle it.
right, right. Um, but then from we stayed in Portland for just a couple of days. We thought about going to a Portland Timbers game, which is their MLS team. They were in town and playing. They were playing the Houston Dynamo, which we really don't. Our family doesn't like being Sporting Kansas City fans, but uh, we the 2 hour time change from Central Time to Pacific Time really can kick your ass.
Yeah, I bet.
We were getting really tired really early, especially the kids, and doing all the hiking and everything we were doing. The games out there don't start till 8 o'clock at night their time, which for
10
our
o'clock here.
yeah for our kids felt like 10 o'clock. And so we decided, no, you know what? We're just gonna go play in the pool at the hotel we stayed at in Portland, and then we'll just watch the game on TV. And sure enough, those kids fell asleep before the game was over. So Kind of glad we didn't spend the money on that one.
Yeah, no doubt.
But then we drove up to Seattle or to Harstein Island and went hiking in the Olympic National Forest. Of course, we went to Seattle and went up in the Space Needle and went to the Pike Street Market. Saw them throwing fish around. That was a lot of fun. Um, Great experience. Very interesting to see all that, and it was really kind of fun because like I knew what to expect. My kids didn't really know what to expect, but it was more fun going and just standing next to one of the little open air fish markets and just watching the other people come up and watching the people selling the stuff. They weren't really trying to sell, like it wasn't like a hard sell, but man would they give people crap, and just like they would find the weakest person there and they would totally tease them, and it was hilarious. I mean, it was almost like watching a comedy show. um,
Yeah, those people are on display all the time, so I'm sure they get good at it.
yeah, yeah, it was quite entertaining.
I
um,
like the Pike Market. I did that one year. Oh, shoot. 30 years ago.
so like just not that long ago.
Yeah, just, yeah,
Yesterday. Yeah.
yesterday.
Oh yeah, it was a lot of fun. We did a lot of walking and everything like that. If you go back to Seattle, one of the things that I recommend checking out, and you have to be kind of a little bit into art in order to enjoy it, but just seeing the stuff is really kind of cool. But it's the Chihuly Museum.
Easy for you to say.
Yeah, right. So I mean, I should have looked up. I should have had all the specifics on it. But what it is he is an artist that does blown glass, and
Oh,
some
nice. I like
some of
that.
the stuff he does is just crazy. Um, if you follow me on Facebook, like me personally, you
Yeah, I'm
will
stalking your
find,
ass right now.
yeah, you will see the pictures that my wife put up there of it. Some of the stuff is just flat out crazy, and how he gets this stuff to look like that is beyond my mind. I mean, I understand how blown glass works, but this is on a whole nother level. And some of the size of these sculptures and things that he did and how he got them all to fit together is just amazing. That was that was not something we realized was in Seattle until like we were looking for stuff to do in Seattle, and she saw that and she's like, "Oh, we should do that." And I'm like, "Yeah, let's. I'm willing to check it out." And I was blown away. It was more than what I thought it would be. I was, I had seen some pictures of what he had done. I was like, okay, well, the few pictures that I've seen on the internet are going to be all that's really there, and it's really going to be more just like normal blown glass stuff. No, no, the whole museum is filled with stuff that's you just look at it and go, how the hell did you do that? Um, yeah, so really, really cool. And of course,
Nice. And now you make me want to go to the Pacific Northwest.
oh yeah. Well, and then on top of that, you want to do any sort of nature stuff at all. It's just great up there. Now, the one problem you're going to have is that it's not hot at all.
I can live with it.
Like
The
there
question
was,
is, though, did you go squatching while you were there?
well, of course. I mean, not officially, but we were walking back in the woods trying to find this thing. I was joking with the kids all the time, trying to just saying, "Hey, you better keep an eye out." Um, there was and of course there's shirts and merchandise for Sasquatch and all over the
Yeah, I
place.
love that shirt you posted. I want to get a hold of one of those.
Yeah, that was pretty sweet. I liked that one, and I liked how the mug shots for each of them showed the height that they were too. So it was
Yeah.
really cool. Um, but yeah, it was a lot of fun. I, I want to go back. But my wife and I have decided that if we're going to go back, we can't do everything like we did this time. We've got to narrow it down. Um, if you don't know, the Olympic National Forest is ridiculously huge. We only spent 1 day in it, and we only went around one lake. We didn't even get to Mount Olympus because it was going to be in order to get to the area to hike to Mount Olympus was like a 6 hour drive. So
Dang.
yeah, from where we were staying, the island we were staying in was kind of in the southeast corner, closest to the southeast corner uh, of the Olympic National Forest. And to get to uh, Mount Olympus, you have to go come in from the north. You have to hike in from the north. And so we had to drive almost all the way around this thing to get to it because there are no roads that go through the forest. It all goes around. There's one loop that goes around it, and then you can hike in. So it, but on top of that, whenever you get to hike into something like that, it's just absolutely gorgeous. You get back into some of these areas that are just untouched by human hands, and it's pretty cool. It is really cool. But so I want to go back up there and do a lot more hiking. Um,
Well,
but
now you know why all those people that live in that area are outdoorsy.
oh yeah, and perfectly fit. I didn't see a single fat guy there. It's kind of
Yeah, that's why I don't live there.
I even felt overweight walking around there, and I mean I'm overweight, but not that bad. Um, yeah, it was pretty crazy. I will also say that some of the military museums that they have up there are really cool as well. Uh, Up in a town called Bremerton, Washington, which is you can get a ferry. You can ride a ferry from Bremerton to Seattle, which is what we did when we went to Seattle. Which that was cool, by the way, too. Ferries are awesome, and I wish we had ferries down here. I don't know what the hell you're going to take a ferry to, but they were just
I
fun to.
guess across the Missouri River.
Yeah, I don't know, but they were really fun. They were really fun to ride on. It was really kind of cool. We saw dolphins when we were on the ferry, which was unexpected. I don't think that happens very often out there in the Puget Sounds that you see dolphins, but we did. But anyway, there's a Vietnam destroyer, Navy destroyer that is dry docked in Bremerton that you can go and tour. It's the USS Turner Joy, which was its big fame came during Vietnam, and it was known as the best gunship in the Navy during Vietnam. So it was, I mean, it just obliterated Vietnam from the seas. There's actually a sign at one point, and you can see the welds on the deck where during one of their missions, they were bombarding the land and got hit by you know mortar shells coming from shooting back at them, and it hit right in front of one of their main guns and went all the way went through the deck and into the cargo below. Did not puncture the hull, so it did not take on water, and the ship didn't have to abort its mission and was able to continue bombarding and finish carrying out their mission. And there is a welded plate on the floor. You can see where this thing went through, and they showed pictures of what it looked like before they patched it, and it's pretty freaking impressive. Um, the You could even go all the way down into their sonar room, and they had a cool little audio display down there where you could listen to. They would tell you what you were going to listen to, and then they would play the sounds that they would be listening for and like what these were, like whether it was humpback whales or how the what the different pings would mean and how you could interpret that stuff. And I thought that was really cool. So
Yeah, I love stuff like that. I
yeah,
just love it.
anyone who's big into war history and things like that, there is a lot of good stuff up there. There's a big naval base there in Bremerton as well, and so I couldn't get close, but I got a picture of a giant aircraft carrier, which when you're from the Kansas, Missouri area, you see zero aircraft carriers. So I thought that was really cool too.
Yeah, trying to think what is the biggest boat we see. I guess it'd be a bass boat.
Yeah, maybe a casino cruise, like a casino boat that's sitting on the Missouri River
Yeah, yeah,
that don't actually float.
yeah. So
Yeah,
actually moving and on the water, pontoon boat maybe.
right. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and
That
not quite an aircraft carrier.
no, no. That's like, and I knew those things were big. I mean, you see pictures of them all the time. You know they're huge, but when you drive by one, you're like, good lord, that thing is ridiculously huge. It's just seeing it, and you're like, wow, it's a whole different thing when you see it in person as opposed to a picture. So yeah, that, great trip, a lot of fun. My kids were troopers too. This is the first time my kids had flown, and not once did my kids get sick on a plane. Super pumped about
Good.
that. They did not. Now, my wife is also amazing and made sure that she pumped gum in them constantly on the plane. So, they bring you the little bags of pretzels now. No peanuts on the planes. They were all pretzels, which, as a guy allergic to peanuts, really appreciates that. And but so they would put gum in their mouth before we took off, and then they'd have to spit the gum out to eat their pretzels, and then they would put gum right back in their mouth so that their ears would constantly be popping, and the and so they had no problems. We got to fly. We flew on smaller planes on the way out there, and on our first leg on the way back. But then uh, when we left the Seattle area, we flew back to San Francisco and then flew to Kansas City. We got to fly on a 737, not one of the new ones, so we were okay. Uh,
Not the one with the upgrade that causes it to crash, huh?
right, right. But we had direct TV the entire flight, full list of channels, movie channels and all, on direct
Wow.
TV on the plane. So that was pretty awesome. The kids got to watch the second Lego movie, or what is it, the Lego movie, the second part or something. They watched that on the plane. Captain Marvel was playing on the plane. My wife chose to watch Aquaman on the plane.
Oh, I bet she did.
Uh-huh. Yeah. I watched soccer and then Australian rules football.
Oh, I love Australian rules football.
That stuff is amazing.
Isn't it?
God, I like watching it. I'm trying to watch it and read comic books on this at the same time, and I'm trying to figure out the rules while I'm watching it because I have no idea the rules of Australian rules football. Rugby I know pretty well, but Australian rules is even more different than rugby, and so it was, but it was fun to watch, man. That stuff's crazy.
Oh,
So
yeah.
yeah, good trip, but I'm glad to be back. So
Well, I'm just disappointed you didn't find Sasquatch, but maybe next time.
yeah, well, I gotta leave it for Eddie. He's out in the woods in Colorado, so maybe he'll find him.
Could be.
You never know.
Yeah.
All right, so you said you went on a day trip today. What kind of day
Yesterday.
trip? Yesterday. And is that when you went and saw this? You found this spider that apparently is a long ways away from home.
No, actually, I had to come home to see a spider that is a long way from home. So, well, we saw it this morning at 9:30.
Oh, really?
So
Okay.
it's a Tuesday,
Yeah.
9:30. There was still quite a few people in the theater, which was good.
Yeah.
These less than 16-year-old boys sat next to me. There was three of them,
Yeah.
and they talked and talked and talked and talked to the trailers and everything. And
Mm-hmm.
I thought, well, that's fine. Let them get it out of their system. But if they talk during the movie, I'm going to have to say something.
Yeah.
So the movie starts and they're still talking, and my wife stands up to say something like, I'll take care of this. And they kept talking, so I finally went, hey, shut the fuck up. And those kids didn't say another word the entire movie.
That is awesome.
In fact, he kept pulling his phone out and everything until then. When I said that, the phone didn't come out. They didn't talk. They sat there perfectly still and watched the movie.
That's awesome. Well, because I mean, I can only imagine like this, pre-16-year-old kid like sitting there and then looking over at you. I mean, you're not a small guy, and in a movie theater, I can only imagine how much bigger you look, just like turning around at him, like, yeah, mm-hmm, kid, he can smash you with his thumb.
Yeah, yeah, it was funny, but it made me sad that I had to say anything.
Yeah, it does.
But then I got to thinking about it. It's like, what was I like at that age at a movie theater? I'm sure I
Right.
was an asshole too,
Well, and
but
those kids have probably already seen it twice, maybe even three times.
who knows? All I know is I had to say something, which it's funny, but I also kind of felt bad that I actually did have to say something.
Right,
So,
right, yeah.
but outside of that, so I always felt like the Spider-Man movies, the first ones with Tobey Maguire were okay,
Yeah.
you know, and then with Andrew Garfield they got better, but
Hmm.
still, I still just thought, yeah, they're fine. With Tom Holland, I thought, well, they stepped up a little bit. So each time they bring in a new Spider-Man, I felt like it's gotten a little bit better. Um, I can honestly say this is by far the best Spider-Man movie I've ever seen. I will see this movie again. Um, it combined action with humor perfectly. For good or bad, you got to relive being a 16-year-old awkward person around girls. Um, yeah, him and Zendaya, who plays MJ, played it perfectly. The whole awkwardness, the whole not wanting to say anything unless you know for sure the other person feels the same way, that kind of thing. It was beautifully done. It was perfect. I'm not going to give any spoilers away. I'm just going to tell you that Jake Gyllenhaal was very good as Mysterio, better than I expected him to be. Um, of course, Samuel L. Jackson is just Samuel L. Jackson.
Right.
He's fantastic. As far as what you've seen in other Avengers movies, you get to see Maria Hill, you get to see Nick Fury, you get to see Spider Man, and of course, a tribute to Tony Stark. So all the other ones are, of course, not there. Um, Everybody pretty much is mentioned by name at least once in the movie, which is fine. You got to have your tie-ins and things like that.
Yeah.
But as a standalone movie, not seeing any of the other Avengers, you would enjoy this movie. Other than you wouldn't know why Tony Stark died,
Gotcha.
because they don't go into it. It's just there's all these tributes to him. There's some talk, how we miss him and that kind of thing. But if you hadn't seen Endgame, you wouldn't have known. But other than that, standalone, I thought was pretty good. I mean, it's basically a 16-year-old boy who is thrust into the role of superhero, and he likes the idea, but he just needs a break. He's
Right.
16 years old.
Yeah.
He's got a crush on this girl. They're going to Europe. He has this plan to, spill his feelings to her and all this other stuff. And of course, saving the world gets in the way. And you feel it. You really feel bad for this kid. Normally when it's the reluctant hero, you're like, just grow up here and get out there and do what you need to do. This was done so well that you're actually like, the kid just needs a break. you
Right.
know, let's figure it out. How to do it without him. That kind of
Yeah.
thing. You actually felt for him. I like Tom Holland as an actor anyway. I don't know how old he actually is, but he plays a 16-year-old really well. Um, so I can't say too much because I don't want to spoil it. I'm just going to say it ends. There's two. Um, there's one post credit and one kind of before the credits roll
Gotcha.
scenes. The movie kind of ends, and then there's this one piece
Oh, gotcha.
that I don't know if it's part of the movie or it's actually an end credit scene type of thing. But
Gotcha.
that first one will floor you.
All right.
The second one at the end of the credits, totally, it's kind of funny. Um, I won't tell you what it is. I'll just tell you it's kind of funny and it gives some things away, makes you go, "What the hell?" I guess we're setting up for the next round of Avengers. I don't know for sure, but the first one, holy cow, yeah,
Okay. Well, I'm
really, really
hoping.
good.
I'm.
Um, I like the way they wrapped up the story in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
One of the problems I have with superhero movies, DC is really bad about this, but Marvel's done it a couple times. Having more than one bad guy
Yeah.
drives me insane. It's like, let's deal with one. Let's tell this story really well instead of trying to tell two stories half-assed.
Yeah.
This one was one story, well done. Um,
Good.
one bad guy, you know, or whatever you want to call it. Um, yeah, they were able to
Cool.
tell a really good story. Didn't get it didn't get bogged down with too many bad guys.
That's
So
yeah. See, and I always hate when movies do the multiple bad guys thing, unless it's a multiple bad guy team, which I still am really like. I really want to see a Spider-Man Sinister Six movie. Like, I really want to
yeah,
see that, but I understand that can be very difficult to do, and which is probably why they haven't done it. But I would love to see a Sinister Six. Now, on that same note, I think you're right. I think when you have multiple bad guys, it ends up taking away. You end up taking away from one or the other. They don't like one of them ends up being a throwaway one, and the other one ends up being not as good because the other one was there. You don't give enough time to develop one into what it is. I'm really looking forward to seeing this movie. I'm crossing my fingers that I'm gonna go see it sometime Thursday through Sunday. One of those days, I'm hoping to be able to get out there and go see it. Um,
hopefully you do because I would like to do a spoiler packed podcast where
okay,
I'd like to get your thoughts on some things. As an avid comic book reader that you are,
right?
I would like to know your thoughts on especially the end.
Okay,
So yeah,
yeah, and
so
I
hopefully you do get to see it. I think it. I won't give anything away. I'll let you enjoy it.
okay.
But yeah, I would really love to hear your thoughts on some things there at the end.
We'll count on that. We'll do that next week. I'll make sure that I get it in, because it. I mean, and I've seen some of the theories and stuff that have been thrown out there. Like I want to see if those are real or not. Like I want like the theories and stuff, and And really, where the Marvel Cinematic Universe is going to go next, this movie is the end of the. They've said this is the end of the current cinematic universe. Endgame was not the last movie. This one is the last movie. And then from here, we're taking on the next phase. And I want, like, and right now, we don't really know what that next phase truly is. So I'm excited to see maybe what
Yeah, I
this
think you
hints
get a
at.
hint. And it
That's
may be
cool.
more than a hint for
Okay.
people who read comic books. For me, but for me, it was more like, okay, I'm
Mm,
curious to see where this goes. After
even
you see
better.
it, you'll probably go, oh yeah, this is exactly blah blah blah. But for me, it was like, oh, okay. So
Yeah. So I'm
yeah,
yeah, that makes me even more excited to go see it. So yeah, I will go see it. Obviously, I can't go see it tomorrow night. I'll be at a soccer game, but after that, I mean Thursday I don't have anything going on during the day. Friday I don't have to go to work, which is awesome. And so maybe I can go get it in on Friday. Do like what you
yeah,
did and go watch the movie at 9:30 in the morning. Those are my favorite movies to go to, by the way.
yeah, mine too. Because usually the crowd, there's less people, so less chance of having to tell somebody to shut up.
Yeah.
It didn't work in my favor this time, but most of the time it does.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and the tickets are cheaper too, so I can actually get into a movie. Oh, yeah. So speaking of cheaper tickets, uh, I will go one more. I want to do one more thing on my vacation. Hey, if you go to the Northwest, people tell you it's more expensive out there. They're not lying. So just so you know, um, lunch for the four of us, with one beer for me and one beer for my wife, and we were somewhere between $70 and $100 for lunch.
Whew, whew.
Yeah. So,
Ouch.
guys, it is expensive out there, and for what the hell for? Come on, it's the same stuff. Like, it's not like we were getting like, big like lobster or big like crabs to eat. Like, we weren't getting expensive meals. It was just, it's everything. You, you get a burger out there that would be like maybe a $10 burger here. Out there, it's 14. So I don't know. Maybe they just don't have enough cows. I don't know. But
Well, that is the reason I ended up in Kansas City
yeah.
because I actually got two job offers coming out of school. One in Kansas City at an engineering firm and one at Boeing in Seattle.
Oh.
And it was both were the same pay,
Oh,
but
right.
then when I did my research, I realized
You.
Seattle was like twice as expensive as it
Yeah.
is here. So I
Yeah.
decided to move here,
Yeah. And
which I'm glad I did. I like it here.
yeah, that's fair. I'm glad you're here too. Otherwise, we might not
Thanks,
have ran into
man.
each other. So, I said that I started reading some comic books on my trip, and I wanted to talk about them a little bit because for people that one are Transformer fans, and two are don't want a continuing story. They want something they can just read in one. Uh, I found some stuff that were actually really cool, and they're recently republished, and recently like within the last 10 years. But these are actually really old comics, and they're really fun. So if you like Transformers, these are what this is IDW, when they purchased the rights for Transformers, they did a collection that was that they went by the moniker Best of UK. And in these series, they took um, different books that kind of fit a storyline and packaged them together and said, here's a story. So I've read a couple of them, and let me pull up which ones I've read. I've read City of Fear and Dinobots. Now, I'm a huge Dinobots fan. I love transforming dinosaurs. I think that is the coolest thing ever. And so that story was actually really good. It has a bunch of um, what I thought was the most fun, and but also a little frustrating was these are not sequential books. So at times when you go from one to the next, it made it a little harder to follow. Like there's stuff that happened in between that you don't know about, but it's not important for the story that they're telling in this collection. So also, I think it was the way the UK books were written and how they were done. They were also written different from the way our books are written now. Our books are written now with a beginning and an end in the book. The story might continue in the next book, but the book has a beginning and an end. With the way these books were done, it is a it when you start the book, you're in kind of the first part of the book is like the middle of the previous book. So there's kind of a title page in the middle of the book, which leaves you on cliffhangers for the next book. And these are all collected, so it's all together. You don't have to worry about like, oh, I gotta go find the next one. Like I just hit next on my tablet and it goes right to the next one, and it's not a big deal. Just like I'm turning pages. But I just thought that was really cool. It made it a lot of fun to read. It was these stories they're just really good because they're old 80s. I mean, these are old 80s comic books with just new fancy covers on them, and they were just so fun to read, and some of the little things that they put in there were, it would be like if you've read comic books and they're telling a story and then there's something that happens that they want you to know about that like happened in a previous, they just mention it. They put a little footnote on it, and down at the bottom it says, hey, this is in Transformers 100. Well, I don't have Transformers 100 in that collection. That happened in another. Now I want to go back and I want to go like, oh, okay. Well, what did they say happened here? Like, what were they talking about? And then I want to go find that issue and go read that issue to find out what they're talking about and read that storyline. It really like I, it opened me back up to all the old Transformer comics, which I have digitally. I purchased um, all of the Transformer old 1980s Transformer comics in a digital format so I could read them on my tablet. So now I'm going to go back. After reading these, got me all hooked in again. It's time to go back to issue number one and read through. So
Very
that
cool.
it's Transformers are so awesome, and Transformer comic books from the 80s are even better. They're if you ever watch I wouldn't even say the cartoon. That's not even fair for it either. If you've ever read an old comic book, like, some of the early introductions, like Stan Lee's first comic books, like of Spider-Man, they're really well written because the story has to be good. Like the story has to be there. Well, these books, these Transformer books, fit that same mold. They're they're books that have to tell a story, but they can't just tell you the story. They have to sell you the story, and so I think it's just a lot of fun. You don't have to worry about looking at a page and looking at a panel and going, oh, well, that's this character and that's this character and that's this character. You don't have to worry about that because they tell you. Because back then they expected every comic book that you picked up, that's your first comic book. You're not going to know these characters, so they always make sure that when you read these older comic books, you don't have to be the most well educated. You don't have to be a comic book historian to be able to read and enjoy the story. Which sometimes I feel like in some of these comic books that are coming out now, I'll read a new comic book and I'm so lost in it that it's just like, well, do I really want to go back and try to find out what went on and put all the pieces together, or do I just want to go find something that's already, that's old and already done? So uh, high praise for IDW's Best of UK series and these Transformer comic books. Thank you, IDW, for putting these out because they're awesome.
Awesome.
I like them, and I like Transformers, and we need more Transformers in the world.
I think we do. But what do I know? I didn't grow up on them.
No, you're already too old to enjoy them.
I'm too old for everything anymore. So.
No. Yeah, I'm starting to feel that same way. So. You know, I'm coaching soccer now, and I have that's me and another guy that's coaching. However, the other guy that's coaching, I'm old enough to be his dad. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So it's a little. I mean, he's a good kid and a very very mature kid. So it's not like it's bad or anything like that. It's just weird thinking about it that I didn't think that was really ever going to happen. Yeah, you never really think you're gonna get old, and then you realize that, oh hey, I'm not young anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. Believe me, I know.
I'm the old guy in the office, which is weird.
Yeah. I remember that when that happened to me. I
Yeah,
remember always being teased about being the puppy and the youngest person, blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden one day it's like, I'm the oldest one here. How
yeah,
the hell did that happen?
yeah. When you throw out a movie reference and they look at you like, "What are you talking about?" And I'm like, "Come on, it's like it's Office Space, like it's a classic." And they're like, "What's Office Space?" And I'm like, "Oh, dude, there's really you can't do
Yep.
that."
Yep.
Yeah, it's sad, but you know, what are you gonna do? We keep getting older, they keep staying the same age.
Yep. Matthew McConaughey.
All right, so yeah, we've gone longer than your episodes with Holly, so we should probably wrap this up here.
Yeah, I think we should.
All right, man. Well, next week we are going to talk about Spider-Man: Far From Home. We are totally going to do that. Kip's going to keep drinking whiskey. That's going to be a thing now. I'm going to make sure that he's drinking whiskey every night we record.
Well, I've been
So,
watching Ray Donovan, and I swear the guy doesn't eat or anything. All he does is drink.
yeah.
And it's like, yeah, I think I'll have a whiskey while I podcast. I'm Ray Donovan, bitches.
I love it. I love it. All right, everybody, you know the drill. Go check out our blog at geekvice.blogspot.com. Go follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/geekvice. You can also subscribe to the YouTube channel. Go search for Kip Morph, or you can go to the Facebook page. You can get to the YouTube channel from there. You can also follow us on Twitter. You can follow that man over there at Kip Killigan. You can follow me at Geekvice. And of course, as always, you can reach us by email at geekvice@gmail.com. Thanks everyone for listening to our ramblings, and we will see you next time.
Later.
This podcast is part of the Podcast Arcade Network.